So let's look at some databases and let's look at how to search in these databases. Now we're going to use something that's called Boolean logic or Boolean searches. Now Boolean is something that we started, I'm not sure when it started, back in the 80s. I'm just guessing, maybe even 70s. Back when it was super expensive to do a search and they didn't have Google, they would get on from a terminal inside of a library and they would fill out their search that they're looking for, and they'd put it. They would actually write this all out, and then when they could get online, because they'd charge you per minute, you get online, you type it in exactly what you're looking for, and so we would do Boolean searches or Boolean strings to give us the information that we're looking for as we were searching the libraries. Now we actually use Boolean searches still, but we tend to use those more in databases than we do in like Google, because Google doesn't use Boolean search. It uses what they think is an easier way to do it, which is it finds stuff, and that seems to be good, but you have to learn how to do that in Google. And Boolean searches, if Google would work with Boolean searches, you could find exactly what you're looking for even easier. But let's take a look at those. Okay, the search strings or the Boolean operators that we use are and, or, and not. There's also a consort, and we'll get to that in just a second. So if you're using the word and, here's what it looks like. Well, let's just say we type in one word. We're looking for dogs. Well, this is everything that we could find on the internet or everything we could find in this database about dogs. Boom, there it is. Okay. If we put the word and in between it, it has to have both of those search terms that you're looking for. So if we put dogs and cats, notice how that narrows down or shrinks down the amount of information that would come back. So if at first you started out with dogs and it came up with 2 trillion searches or 2 trillion hits, you'd go, okay, that's a lot of hits. I need to narrow it down. So you can put something else in there, put dogs and cats. And what it does is it brings it down to just this part right here that you're looking at, just that. So this is all about dogs. And this is everything about cats, and this is everything that has to do with dogs and cats. This is the word or. Let's say that you type in something and you need to expand your search because it comes back with 0 hits. Or it comes back and you need to have more information than the 10 sources that you find. So you put dogs or cats. And what happens is it's going to come up with dogs or cats, and it's going to bring everything back to you. So you're going to use the word or if you want to expand your search to get more hits on it. Okay? And then not. Not is, I want everything about dogs, but it keeps bringing up these stupid things about cats that I don't want. So I'm going to put dogs, not cats, and it'll bring up all this information. If it has the word cat in it, it'll get rid of it. And so it won't be in the results, the search results. Okay, let's go back to consort real quick. The consort, by putting with this wildcard back behind your search term, it can actually look for other things. For example, if you put the word dog, D-O-G, dog, and you say search for that, and it found another thing that said dogs with an S on it, it might not find that because it's not the exact word dog. It all depends on the database that you're searching, so it might not find it. But you put the consort behind it and it says, oh, I'm also looking for dogs with an S behind it. Sometimes, and on many of the smart ones, they go, oh, I'm also looking for synonyms of that. For example, I'm also looking for canine. So if they talk about something that has to do with canines, it doesn't use the word dogs, but use the word canines, it would find that search as well. So that's called a consort that would come back behind the search term. Okay, so let's take a look at something. If we are looking at Douglas Adams, I don't know if you know who Douglas Adams is, but he wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I really have enjoyed Douglas Adams' works. He's funny. He says things like, the Vogon space destroyer hung in the air exactly the way a bowling ball wouldn't. And you're like, that's kind of funny. I just, instead of making, yeah. Anyway, Douglas Adams is an English author. But if we just type in the words Douglas Adams, it's going to come up with something. This is what it'd come up with. Douglas Adams would come up with this right here, without the quotation marks. Douglas Adams. Well, here's what we've got. If it automatically treats a space as an or. I'm looking for Douglas or Adams. And so it came up with Douglas and Adams. And so if you had Douglas Adams, it'd come with that. Let me show you what that looks like. Douglas and Adams. In the left side, everything there has to do with Douglas. Everything there has to do with Adams. Okay. it come back with all three of these guys. Now, but Douglas Haig was one of them. John Quincy Adams was one of them. And Douglas Adams was one of them. So if we look at these, this would be Douglas, this would be Adams, but right here in the middle would be Douglas Adams. Okay, so we'd have to put the words and or put the quotation marks around it. Okay, if we put quotation marks around it, it finds exactly Douglas Adams. Now, let's say that he also went by his middle name. I don't know if he had a middle name. I don't remember ever reading it anywhere, but let's say that his middle name were Nicholas. So let's say his name was Douglas Nicholas Adams. If I just put the word Douglas Adams and it found Douglas Nicholas Adams, it wouldn't pull that up because it's not exactly what we're looking for. We said quotation marks. We want exactly this, Douglas Adams. And so it wouldn't find that other one. Okay, so that's when you'd want to use a Douglas and Adams instead of a Douglas Adams with the quotation marks. Okay, so if we just said Douglas, not Haig, it'd come up with this. Give me information about a Douglas, but not Haig. Now let's go to the databases. Let's take a look at the databases and let's play inside of those. This is EBSCO host, and I've told it to search all of the EBSCO that we've got on here. But what it brings up is we can decide if what we want to do. We want to find all my search terms, find any of my search terms, or smart text searching, which is kind of like a Google search, but it's going through the EBSCO host. But we're going to look at Boolean phrase. Okay, so a Boolean phrase is what we're going to do. And so if I just put in the word cat and hit enter, let's see how many hits we come up with. Well, we came up with 614,000. So 614,000 different hits that has the word cat in it, or cats in it. Now this is interesting because it looked for the word, it found the word cats right there, but right down here it found the word cat. And so I don't know if it looks like it's finding the word cats in addition to it, so we wouldn't need to put, or cat, because we wouldn't need to put a consort behind it. But that came up with 615,000, basically, 614,954. But if we change this to cats or dogs, what's that going to do? Is that going to increase the number or decrease the number? Are we expanding our search, or are we narrowing our search down by using the word or inside of it? Cats or dogs? Okay, and let's do a little search now. And let's see, so 614. If we use the word or, that's going to expand the search. So we're going to go from 614 to 1,655,000 different hits because we use the word or expanded the search. Okay. Now let's say that we want to know about cats and not dogs. This is going to narrow things down. So when we hit search, now we've gone from 1,655,000 to 519,000. So it's narrowed things down when we put cats, not dogs. I'm just curious. I don't know what's going to do. Let me just put in the word, whoops. Let me just put in the word dog and see what it comes up with. See if that changes any by changing the S on it. Nope, exactly the same. So it's finding cats, or it's finding dog and dogs. Okay, so that's one way to narrow it down by doing that. But let's say that we need to narrow it even further than that. What else could we do? We could put cats, not dogs, and then we could put another word, not. And let's say that we came up with a protective immunity, and lots of this had to do with lungs and immunity. So we can put not lungs, not immunity. Okay. So we can continue to add on to that search string, and it'll continue to narrow it down. So let's see how many times this had lungs, or so that brought it down, it dropped it down by 3,000 hits. So 3,000 of those had that inside of it. Now let's say that we wanted to find out more about that. We could put and lungs, and immunity, and let's see what that comes up with. 17, okay? So if it's looking for the words cats, not dogs, and it has to have the word lungs, and it has to have the word immunity in it, it'll come up so you can find a lot better of what you're looking for. So there's only 17 hits to look through that. So that's using Boolean logic in order to narrow it down. Now Boolean logic works really well for certain databases, things like Google, if you put the words and not, it ignores those, okay? Sometimes instead of putting the words and, you'd put the word, let me zoom in so you can see a little better. You'd put the thing plus, okay? And then instead of, if you didn't want to do a not immunity, you'd put a minus immunity. And let's just see what this does here. Let's take a look at this and see what it comes up with. So this doesn't understand the words plus and minus, where Google used to, and it seems like anytime I do it, I don't come up with very good search results using that anymore. And so that's something that they've changed, and maybe I just don't know how to do it right in Google if I'm trying to get rid of stuff. Because using the word not, it starts to include it. Like, let's go to Google real quick. Oops, Google.com. Okay, let's put the words cats. Let's just see what it comes up with. It came up with am I looking at that right? 3 billion hits. And if I put not dogs, what does it come up with? So that did bring it down. Okay, good. But look, it still says there's a dog, there's a dog. So it's done something to it, but I don't know exactly what it's done. Because, see, it's looked for the words not dogs instead of trying to get rid of it. Let's try this. I'm just curious. We're going to take and put the word minus in front of that. Cats minus dogs. Okay, we still have 3 billion. And let's see, do we have the word dogs down here? Cats? Well, it has gotten rid of the word dogs out of there. So that's good. So in Google, use the minus inside of there. I'm just curious, what if I put plus? Okay, so I'm learning with you guys. So that's got 1,480,000,000 hits. Okay, so it has to include the words cats and dogs in front of it. So there you know, and knowing's half the battle. So that's searching using Boolean logic. Boolean logic is a great way to narrow things down or to expand your searches. Now, we also learned something together today, and that was adding the plus and the minus works back in Google again. So if you add a plus to it, it includes it. If you add a minus to it, it excludes it right in front of the term. And so in Boolean, you use the operators and, or, and not. Those are the 3 common ones. And then there's consorts, and you can also use quotation marks. Also, quotation marks also work inside of Google. So if you put quotation marks around exactly what you're looking for, you can come up with that. Anyway, that's how to search a little bit better, to narrow and to expand your search results. The next video we're going to get into is going to be about how to tell if what you're finding is a good, valid, and viable source. We'll see you in that video.